the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
I think that's the thing that's most intriguing or maybe impressive is just how deep it is and how good everybody has been. Really past 1 through 9, 1 through 10, 1 through 11 in SEC play.
Jack, what's your biggest question mark coming out of this weekend series? Is it the staff and what Vitello does this weekend against LSU?
Yeah, it has to be. And it's going to be until AJ Russell comes back. And even when AJ Russell comes back, I don't know how long it's going to be after that until he can confidently give you a 5 to 6 inning start. I don't even know if that's going to happen this season. Well, it just remains to be seen. But it's the pitching that is the most worrisome thing about this group, and that is my biggest question moving forward. And if we want to get really specific, it's AJ Causey, because that performance from Drew Beam was huge as far as putting all of the worries to bed for the most part. It's saying his performance said Drew Beam from old is still here. And yeah, you may have a couple of bad outings here and there, but for the most part, he's going to be a guy that you can trust on day 2. We know what Nate Steen's been able to do. I do think if Seacrest can consistently get you 6 outs on Sunday, that's really all you need. The start against Georgia was, complete icing on the cake. I don't think we'll see that again. But if he can get you 6 outs and only give up a couple runs, that's all you need from him, given this offense. So it's that Friday night roll, and we'll see if Beam goes there, what happens moving forward. But do you still trust AJ Causey to be a starter, and can he figure it out? Because he looked good against Bama and Ole Miss. The last 2 weeks have been an absolute train wreck. So, Tennessee.
We also saw with Burns, right?
3,
like Burns was getting rocked by SEC
we'll
competition last year at this point, right? Like Burns was struggling. Like his ERA was at 7, I think, at this point last year. I want to say it was somewhere around 7, where Burns was getting lit up. And we've seen the difference, though, is we've seen Causey dominate SEC competition. We've seen AJ Causey be electric, and we've seen him strike out. Like his strikeout to walk ratio was insane before the last 2 weeks. That's the big thing I'm looking at, is like the strikeouts it's still just so. The thing I'm still optimistic about with AJ Causey, that is that I just think that stuff, he's still going to have a high strikeout rate. I still think there are going to be nights where he's still very much on, and it's going to help Tennessee a lot. I don't think what we saw the last 2 weeks is indicative of what's to come every week for AJ Causey. I just think it's going to be a little bit bumpier than I think we thought it was going to be when he was settling into that. Like we were just like, oh, he's going to do the Andrew Lindsay thing, and he's just going to settle in that Friday role, be rock, just steady Eddie every week. But that's not really his style. I think his style is he's going to be quick. He's going to have these 9-10K games where he gets through 6 or 7 innings, has a couple pop-up home runs, and then you're like, awesome, we got that from AJ this weekend. Let's take advantage and win this game for him. And that's like, he gave us the 2 solo shots, whatever, but he did what he needed to do. He still had 9-10Ks, and that was great. And then there will be games where I think it's just going to be kind of like what we saw the last 2 weeks. If you keep him in this spot, I think he's going to be a little bit more mercurial than I think fans might have expected, and like the 3 of us may have expected based on what we saw before the last 2 weeks. And I just think his upside is still pretty strong. And then I think the other thing that might get overlooked by fans over the weekend is Combs coming in, and who's struggled all year long, and someone that Tennessee was really hoping would be a big bullpen piece with their depth, especially. I feel like that was huge for his confidence this weekend, is that he was really, really good. No runs given up, earned runs, I should say, for Combsy on Friday. I think that's huge for Aaron and what that can be for his confidence, because I think they are going to need Aaron to have the confidence and be one of those guys that they can count on come May and June.
Yeah, definitely. I'll start with Causey because I want to hit on both points. And I completely agree with what you said on Causey. Like, I don't think it's just something where the floor is completely falling out and he's going to be like super bad going forward. I think it just might be a little inconsistent. And the thing that becomes interesting there is like consistency is kind of what you're looking for, number one, in a Friday night guy. So do you tinker and, mix things up?
I think Beam has to go Friday now. My gut says you have to move Beam to Friday.
I don't know that I'm posing this question. I don't know the answer to it. What you just said is the answer. If you're looking for someone that's going to be more consistent, it's Beam, because I think for the most part, you know what he's going to get. The results might vary, but there's just a more levelness with him. So to me, that's the interesting thing. I definitely don't think, you definitely give Causey another week, I think, on Friday night. Even with another bad outing, as long as it's not terrible, you might continue to give him another start just because there's so few options right now. And clearly they like Snead out of the bullpen, and they like to be able to maybe use him on a Friday or Saturday for an inning if you need him, and then turn around and use him in more long relief with that Seacrest Snead duo that you talked about earlier. And then, with Combs, I mean, I thought that was huge. And really his best outing, probably his best outing of the season. He was good the opening weekend of the year too in Dallas, but between then he didn't really have very many good outings. And he's a guy that, in our preview story this year, like I had him as the breakout bullpen arm. I thought he was going to be really good and one of the main guys for Tennessee. And especially when you continue to look after Snead, there's not a lot of right-handed arms that they trust right now in the bullpen. He's the guy that's going to continue to get opportunities. So I think that was big. And, I don't know how much I guess the point, sneaky good weekend for the bullpen. I mean, honestly, the bullpen was good the entire weekend. And really, the pitching was good after Causey got rocked. And then obviously, first three batters went pretty haywire for Xander today, but give him a lot of credit for rallying and getting 6 straight outs after that. And in a game where you knew there was going to be a lot of runs, like it's a crazy thing to say that giving up 3 runs in 2 innings, isn't a bad outing, but it wasn't the end of the world because you just knew Tennessee's offense was.
It could have been way worse. Those 3 runs early, that could have been way worse. The game could have been out of reach where Tennessee could have been like, oh man, this is going to be too high. Like 3 was huge. I think Tennessee has that confidence of 2 years ago where they're like, you could just tell like 3 is nothing. 3, even 5, like we're okay. Like you just get that, which is crazy, but that's the optimism and I think the confidence that Tennessee's hitting has, where it's like, hey, Xander, we just need 3 to 5. Like you can get 3 to 4 innings, and if you give up somewhere in that 3 to 5 range, we have a really good chance of winning this baseball game.
Yeah. I remember saying to myself in the top of the second after Seacrest had given up those 3 runs, Tennessee loaded the bases with no outs. I'm like, oh, there you go.
Yeah,
pretty much back to even. Just got to capitalize here. I mean, it's second inning. It's 10 minutes had gone by. So,
and doesn't it feel like they have that confidence though again? Where Tennessee is just, I think they're rolling, and I think they're just like it's almost like one of those things where the opponent, I feel bad for them sometimes. Where I'm like, oh, y'all are feeling too good about this. Like you're gonna need more. It's this year. This isn't gonna go the way you think it's gonna go. You need 6 here. You need a 6 spot. You need to really make Tennessee feel like this is too high of a mountain for them to climb, because I just think they have so much confidence in their lineup right now, and they should. I don't know. It's a good thing to have, and I guess with the pitching stuff, we'll end that point of the discussion with predictions on what we think Tony's going to roll out Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend against LSU, and then what we would do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'll say I think Tony keeps Beam on Saturday. I think I'm going to say he keeps I'm going to say he goes bullpen Friday. I think he goes like an opener type deal. Maybe it's Combs. Maybe it's, I don't know who. I don't think it would be Snead. I could see I don't know. I think he changes something up. I think he changes something on Friday. My gut just tells me something, and I just don't think it's going to be Beam, even though I would go the Beam route. And then I think Sunday, I think Xander and Snead are just rolling. I think that's something that I think a lot of baseball folks are superstitious a little bit, where it's like, it's not broke on Sunday right now. Like it wasn't broke for a month and a half with AJ Causey on Fridays. We're not messing with that. So for me, my guess is something weird happens on Friday that we're not expecting, but Saturday and Sunday is like what we saw. But what I would do is probably move Beam to Friday, Xander Snead to Saturday, and then AJ is the wild card Sunday. And hopefully you've got 2 wins in the series, and it's less pressure on AJ as he looks to bounce back on Sunday. I don't know. That's what I would do. But I also, I'm still buying. I'm not selling my AJ Causey stock. I still have seen too much good from AJ Causey this year that I wouldn't go away from him, and I wouldn't panic too much from two rough starts in SEC back to back. But Brian, I think you disagree here in those 2 things.
Well, I don't know about those 2 things. You're selling me under. You're acting like I'm selling the AJ Causey stock.
I don't know. For the good folks on YouTube.com/ChaseThomas Podcast, the lights went off briefly.
Well, I mean, I think Tony Vitello is going to keep everything the same. And I think I would probably keep everything the same too. I wouldn't dislike the move of going Beam on Friday, and either Causey on Saturday, or move Xander Snead up a day and go Causey on Sunday. I wouldn't hate that.
But you wouldn't surprise me
I-
if they go Combs and then Causey on Friday night, or they start Combs for the
It
first
would surprise me. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not shock
Yeah.
me, but I would be surprised if they made that
Okay.
move. So yeah, don't throw like I'm selling my AJ Causey stock. I'm keeping him locked in on Friday night.
Yeah.
You're saying get the guy to Sunday. It's like
I think it's just okay to move guys around a little bit. Like,
yeah,
I
no,
think,
it is. I just don't think they've won the last 3 series and they won the last 2 series when AJ Causey struggled. Now you lose on Friday and both those times and you put yourself in a hole. I just think there will be one more week of okay, we think he can get back. This hasn't hurt us yet. Everything you said about being superstitious, it's all been fine. It's all been working on Saturday and Sunday. Let's just count on him getting back to what he was. And I think a third bad start would kind of be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
What do you think,
2
Jack?
things here. I agree that I don't think Tony will change anything, and that he probably shouldn't, because I think Causey has done enough good that you should give him a third chance to bounce back, and another one at home too against LSU, who is underwhelmed this season, but isn't they're kind of probably more of a middle of the pack SEC team, so I think it'll be a good outing to gauge him on either way. But if I'm going to go against that train of thought, it's that it sounds crazy since they're the defending national champions, but this is probably the last weekend where you can say, okay, let's experiment a little bit, and it probably won't have too significant of an impact, and we still think we can win the series, because you're going on the road to Lexington the following weekend, and as hot as they've been, you do not want to experiment with anything. You want to be firing on all cylinders and have your A plan and your A game ready to go on the road. So that's the other side of the coin there for me.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
And I think that's the thing is, like, I would just, like, I'm okay if Tony, I guess that's my broader point, is like I said, I don't want to sell my AJ Causey stock. Like, Ryan Schumpert has been adamant about selling his AJ Causey stock, which and Jack and I have we don't understand it. And
I remember Ryan has been against AJ Causey from the start. Let's not kid ourselves.
He really has.
Chase and I are in like the Curves episode this season with Vince Vaughn and Larry going against each other. No, you are being as kind. You're the nicest, best people I know. We're doing that with the AJ Causey stock. You're selling I would never sell my AJ Causey stock.
I mean, like I said, I like Causey, and we've still seen too much good that I think moving him to Sunday and there's just something that I think to put a bow on it is like Beam on Friday at this point, you just feel the same, like the tone setter, where it just kind of, exactly what you're getting, and you don't put yourself in the hole potentially, because it's just, you don't want the Boomer Gust guy, because like that's what made Andrew Lindsay so good last year, is he was kind of the weekend tone setter, where he was steady Eddie, he was rock solid on that Friday spot, and he was probably the one you trusted the most. Weirdly enough, by the end of the year, and he wasn't even the original 3 aces coming into the season, but I think we all talked about it last year. It's like Andrew Lindsay was the safest bet of anybody in that starting rotation. I think you just kind of want that to be your Friday guy, is your safest bet to get you off on the right foot for the weekend series. So I don't, like y'all said, Tony probably doesn't mess with anything this weekend, but if there was, like, to Jack's point, if you're going to mess with anything, this is the last weekend to do it, because there's a lot of important, difficult road SEC games that lie ahead for this Tennessee baseball team. And you kind of want to nail down who your 3 guys are and what the order of those 3 guys are. And I think I wouldn't shake the 3 guys being Xander/Nate, AJ Causey, and Drew Beam, but I am okay with them potentially moving them around based on what we've seen to this point, which is AJ being the wild card on Sunday, Drew Beam being the guy that you just roll with on Friday to be the tone setter, and then Saturday, I think, being your number 2 most comfortable with Nate Snead and Xander Sechrist. And that also potentially saves you a lot of bullpen help for Sunday. If AJ doesn't have it early on a Sunday, you have a lot of bullpen arms, because Nate and Xander can potentially go far on Saturday. Drew Beam, we know, can go the distance on Friday. You might have a lot more bullpen ammunition for a Sunday AJ Causey start, depending on what kind of week he's having and what kind of game. So I don't know. That's another part of what I've thought about with moving AJ to Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from that aspect of it, for sure.
Well, I think, yeah, and this is not a slight to Xander. He's done really well for the most part recently. But like what AJ Causey has done, the floor we've seen, I think that's kind of what everyone thought that could be a real possibility for Xander in SEC play, given what we've seen from him. And if you'd asked us, before the season, what I'm trying to say is, well, Xander has to be on Sundays if he's going to be on any day. So if AJ kind of is doing what you thought was the downside for Xander, then Sunday makes the most sense.
Yep.
Just backing you up there.
I think so, but we'll see ultimately what happens here this weekend. But either way, Tennessee baseball in a very good position. We'll see if they move up after a big weekend at Auburn. They're at 4. We'll see how that might be, but it's going to be fun. This weekend is going to be rowdy. I think a lot of Tennessee fans have had Tennessee LSU baseball circled for a long time. I don't know what the tickets were, but I saw a couple months ago they were like $300 for like some cheap ones for Tennessee LSU. It's going to be a hornet's nest here in Knoxville. Orange and white game also in town. Like Knoxville is going to be a lot of fun this weekend for a lot of different reasons. But Tennessee, the Lady Vols made a hire this weekend. Kelly Harper obviously was...
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.